What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 69. Nice. A regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-hosts, Roffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. You know, I think I've streamed every single day this week so far, so I'm a little bit tired, starting on Monday with my Diamond 5 climb, and then putting in quite a bit of time with the Miniset cards, since I'm going on vacation next week, and I need to, you know, get that content train rolling. So it's been a busy week, but happy to share my experience and discuss it with you guys.
Yeah, I am very much enjoying all of the new set. I feel very, I don't know, just like reinvigorated, I guess. Like I didn't stream and do very much stuff in terms of content creation last month. And so I'm kind of just been enjoying diving back into everything. It's been really fun. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've had a very love-hate relationship with the mini set over just the course of the past 4 days. Like, when it came out on Tuesday, I streamed for like 4 hours. And I think I literally queued into 90% Pirate Warrior and Odd Hunters, and I was just like, I can't do this. This is gross. So I like took a day off, just didn't do anything, and then Thursday played a bunch of games, didn't queue into a bunch of Pirate Warriors, so I had a lot more fun, and it was really nice. And then there was this like Druid bug that got found and was exploited and promoted by a certain somebody on the podcast. We won't talk about who, but that got super popular, so I took today off to go play some Magic and had a lot of fun doing that. So I've had a very weird relationship with the mini set so far, but I have enjoyed what I have played. So we'll talk about all of that, bugs included. Oh,
to clarify, I was queuing into 60% Druid before my video went up. My video went up today, and this was a problem that is it's come well before I played the deck.
Yeah, I mean, you made a video, Corbett made a video. Corbett also streamed like 5 hours of it at High Legend. Next thing I knew, everybody in Legend Ladder was playing freaking Rig Carpenter Druid. I think, God, I saw some numbers from Keith, and these were like HS replay numbers, but like I think it was like up to 40% or something like that, like of the Rig Carpenter Druid at Diamond ranks. This might not have been from Keith. I don't know who I saw this from, but if that's true, that's kind of insane. Just like the course of action of how quickly this bug is kind of spread, and we'll talk about that. I mean, we're already spoiling this week's episode. Before we get into all that, we got to take care of some housekeeping stuff first, right? So first things first, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, whether you guys are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of good stuff, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe. It's a small thing, but it does actually support us a ton.
You can also support the podcast by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/stateofwild, and you can pick up some sweet perks in the process.
And you can also always join the State of the Wild Discord server, where you can come talk about all things Hearthstone and Wild.
All right. Okay, now that we've gone through all that, we can go back right into this conversation we were having about Jerry, right? Yeah. So like we had this mini set released on Tuesday. With it, one of these cards, Rig Carpenter. It's a 2-mana 2/1 pirate. Battle cry, draw a choose one spell and split it. Turns out that Hidden Oasis is a choose one card that when it originally was printed, I think there was a bug with the split cost, like the choose one options usually cost 0. Turns out that really didn't matter until you printed Rig Carpenter, and so now what you do in Aggro Druid is you play Rig Carpenter with Hidden Oasis as your only choose one spell, and so you get a 0-mana 6/6 minion as early as turn 1, in addition to patches and brigands and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I mean the deck is pretty good, right? Spread like wildfire. I know Corbett, you had a tweet about kind of the timeline about this and like just how quickly it actually spread. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So it was, I guess I'm going to be talking in Australia time, but it was 2 nights back for me. There was a Reddit thread where someone was like, Blizzard broke the game. I found that link and I posted it in my Discord. And I was like, guys, hey, what's up with that? Someone came in, White Delight. He eventually tested out all the other choose one cards, and it turned out it was just Hidden Oasis. We thought for a second, maybe it's all of them. And we're worried that maybe Wisps of the Old, whatever, the 7-mana card, would have been insane. You would have had like a whole board of 3/3s on turn 2, which would have been fun. But yeah, White Delight did a whole bunch of testing. He tweeted about it, and then by the time I woke up the next day, in about 8 hours, it was absolute pandemonia. I immediately streamed it, and it became even more popular. And everyone else also, like Roffle was saying, Roffle played it, Roffle made a video of it. It was everywhere. And then the devs were pretty much aware of it. They logged it within that kind of 10-hour time frame between the Reddit post and the next day. And then that's about where we are. That was all about 24 hours ago. So it's only been out there for a couple days, and it's already completely taken over ladder. You were saying that Keith was talking about the numbers. I can look at the numbers right now. I'm looking at the Druid play rate in the last 24 hours at Diamond 4, and Druid is 43% of the format at Diamond 4 and up in the last 24 hours. And yeah, that seems about right. At Legend, it's slightly lower at a mere 40%. But you guys get the idea. It's a lot of Druid. It's very much happened very quickly.
Yeah, Druid has also surpassed Warrior like as a class in terms of win rate over at HS Replay, which, you know, as the mini set released and as we saw like things unfold after the VS report, like there's a very clear line between 3 classes had a positive win rate, everything else had a below 50% win rate. Druid has now joined those 3 as a result of this bug and has in fact surpassed Warrior as the highest win rate class, which is astounding because like just last week we were talking about how Pirate Warrior, or 2 weeks ago I suppose it was, Pirate Warrior is at a place where, you know, other than briefly with Hand Buff Paladin before it got nerfed, is like head and shoulders above maybe any other deck that's existed in the format. So it's like it's passing a outrageously high win rate deck. But you know, as Corb mentioned, the dev team, you know, has a fix rolled out for it and is planning to do that soon. We were kind of hoping it would happen on Friday, but you still have to. Even with a hotfix, you still have to deploy a patch, and deployment takes you know, more than just flipping a switch at times. So hopefully we'll see that.
Contrary to popular belief, right?
Right. It's not just a matter of going into a text file and editing the numbers from 0 to 6. But hopefully next week we'll see that, and it'll be wrapped up, I think, with some of the mercenaries and general changes to bug fixes within the format. Because as anybody's ever worked in development knows, bugs are inevitable. It would have been nice to have this fixed earlier. It would have been, you know, nice if it didn't happen at all. But I think it's because like if you go into the Hearthstone wiki, like it shows Hidden Oasis as having 0 cost things. This is something that like a ways back with Saviors of Oldemon with the quest and with Keeper Staldaris, they like actually created individual cards for each of them, whereas before they were just like random mods that you could select between. And like it appears that it was just like an oversight where they never changed the cost for Hidden Oasis, which is weird because that came out in the same set as Saviors of Oldemon, so you'd think that would be one of the ones that would get it, but it looks like an oversight that is now allowing 0 mana 6/6s on turn 2. Or if you're like me and you're good at the game, you can coin AJ Rig Carpenter and then Solar Eclipse the 6/6, because it is in fact a spell, and get 2 6/6s on turn 2. So always a possibility. But you know, it is going to be something that gets cleaned up quickly, and I imagine that's why we're seeing like it is obviously very powerful and very annoying to face. But I think a lot of it is people are just getting their games in with it while they can. Because it's going to be gone soon.
Yeah, I guess, do you guys want to kind of touch on this? Obviously, it's a very, very strong deck, and I mean, hopefully by the time this podcast releases, the hotfix will have gone live, so we're talking about this like it's in the past. But I do want to ask you guys' opinion kind of just in general, because I know there's been a little bit of conversation about this with, I think Martian's been the main guy who like brings it up on Twitter, saying like, how do you feel about people playing with these bugs, right? So, like, obviously, personally, I don't enjoy playing against it, and I don't enjoy playing them myself, just because I feel like it goes against the spirit of the card game, is to play something that, you know, fundamentally shouldn't be allowed. But I also, like, don't go around yelling at people on Twitter and Reddit for doing it, right? So, like, what are y'all's personal opinions about that?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have never been in favor of people like using these bugs or exploits or anything. Like when the Mechathun sort of bug was around last expansion, I didn't like that. I didn't like facing it. It felt kind of gross. But my opinion on that basically changed once Ixar was playing Cthulhu Hunter. And the reason for that is that basically your stance regarding these bugs sort of are going to fall into two lines, right? It's either going to be the players can play the game as it's presented and as it exists, or what Meowth said, players should probably feel like they morally shouldn't, or it's unfair to play something that's not intended. And it seems that the dev feelings on this are just the players can play the game as it exists. So whether it's a secret passage bug with the Nitro boost, whether it's a Netheron being bugged with Mithril Rod, like whether it's Garrote Rogue being bugged, and you know we saw a whole bunch of stuff with Arcanist in the Masters Tour, and then it was patched, or it will be patched. Has it been patched? Whatever.
It has been patched.
It'll be patched. It was patched after that. It really seems that the dev team is just like, look, if it's a bug, we'll try and fix it as fast as we can. But until then, players are free to do whatever. And if that's the dev response, then I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. But I certainly understand that, you know, people may feel differently. Like, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't. So that's just my own personal take on it. And I'm fine playing it and promoting it and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a very similar stance. And, like, I shifted quite a bit, or in the same way that you did, based on the dev response, and specifically Ixar not only playing Cthulhu Hunter, but saying that people aren't going to have their account suspended for playing Cthulhu Hunter, which is a shift in philosophy that from what we've seen in the past, where they did like take action against players that were exploiting, not like with Snip Snap Warlock or with Ignite Mage where they're legitimately cheating, but exploiting known bugs in the game. And honestly, I think that this philosophy is preferable to that. Players shouldn't be punished for playing the game as it is. You could make a moral argument for, should they be doing that? You know, is it right to do that? And I would lean towards, no, probably not. But like at the end of the day, the players shouldn't be punished for just playing the game as it currently is, because that's also not fair to them. For like, I don't know, what if they didn't realize it was like an exploit and then abused it, and then we're like, well, this is kind of cool, I'm going to keep doing it, and then they get their account suspended or banned. That's, I don't know, that's not very consumer friendly. So I'm glad that they have shifted their philosophy on this. I think that I still don't like it in the game. First of all, like, I've just been conceding to all Druids doing it to me, because it's not fun to play against. It's not entertaining content, and it's content that like has a very brief lifespan. Yeah, I released a video on it, but like the last two times with Mechathun Rogue and with Cthulhu Hunter, I didn't release a video on it, and everybody was asking me constantly, when are you going to release a video on this? When are you going to do the Cthulhu Hunter? When are you going to play the Mechathun Rogue? And I'm just like, I don't want to make a video when, you know, it has a short lifespan. I did it this time, and everybody's in my comments saying, why did you promote this deck? Why are you exploiting a bug? So it's just like it's very clear that the player base is pretty divided on this in terms of what the appropriate response is. And like, I don't know, there is no good response. Like, it just kind of sucks that the game's broken, but like that happens sometimes. I think that the way that they could have just temporarily solve the problem is to disable Hidden Oasis from the wild format. Like, just don't allow players to add it to their deck. I don't know if that's faster than like the deploying the hotfix, but like they can do it in duels, just like temporarily disable it, because nobody's playing that card outside of this deck anyway. So like, I would rather have 3 days without Hidden Oasis than 3 days with Hidden Oasis as a broken card. So I don't know. Hopefully they can consider that as a possibility in the future, because like it really does feel bad to play against, and like when nearly half of the player base is doing that at relatively high ranks, it's pretty tough to avoid. So
it feels, I don't know, it feels super weird to me that people are hitting Legend with it and hitting rank 1 Legend and top 10 Legend with this literal, like, it's an exploit of a bug, right? And so in the magical Christmas land scenario, that while ranks mattered for anything, right, would the response have been different? And
oh yeah, no, absolutely. If this happened in the standard format, it would be a very different response, and that feels bad. I'm not normally one to do the they don't care about wild meme, but like if this were happening in standard, absolutely it'd be fixing, because like the standard placement has tournament, you know, considerations associated with it. So like, I guess maybe not this month, but like it's still the marquee format and probably still would get a relatively swift response of something where this broken. So like that's another thing that kind of does feel bad with this, but like I don't know. I'm just hopeful that it'll be fixed early next week.
I mean, at the same time, though, how do we feel about the Arcanist bug being around standard for that entire length of time, and then eventually making it into the Master Tour? Is it just because that bug felt like it wasn't that much of a deviation of what Garrote Rogue was previously doing, compared to what's happening right now, where it's just it's the extremes of what the bug is allowing you to do that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do?
Exactly. Yeah, because like it was a marginal improvement for Garrote Rogue to have that, and arguably not even that, right? Like a lot of, you know, high caliber players opted for the versions without it because, you know, even with the approval from the dev team to play it in the Masters Tour, they still opted for the version with the Aug Merchants and without the Tainted Archivist. So it's like it wasn't even, you know, clearly better in some people's minds. So yeah, whereas this is just like it's winning games on turn 2.
Yeah. It is interesting though, where you were talking about the shift in philosophy, because the big obvious, the well-known one, you know, whenever we think about our bugs and getting banned and getting to the Blizzard jail, it's Disguised Toast, right? Like it's Disguised Toast doing the Shadow Visions bug, and causing the opponent to, you know, disconnect and things like that. And you know, Toast, again, he did get in trouble at that time. But I suppose, again, like we're talking about the extremities of the extremes of the bugs, right? Whether it's Arcanist compared to this or Shadow Visions compared to this, I guess it's because Shadow Visions as well literally just stops the opponent from playing the game. And in some ways that can be much worse than what we're currently seeing. So it does seem to be a little bit of a spectrum, but at the same time, there is this clear philosophy change, it seems like, where, as we said, the dev team is comfortable and players aren't going to be banned for this type of behavior.
It's also the big deal of like the Cthulhu Hunter and the Mecha'thun Rogue were like still bad, even when you did exploit the bug. Where like this is like a tier 1 deck when you exploit the bug, which feels really bad, right? Like it feels really bad. I mean, that all being said, we're making a big deal about this, but hopefully by the time you guys are listening about it, it's patched out of the game, right? So hopefully you got your ranks in, you climb to legend with it, but it does kind of feel weird that this bug is taking away from kind of the release of the mini set in Wild and kind of what we would be talking about otherwise, which is like the supposed dominance of Pirate Warrior, right? Coming out of that, I know I said supposed for a reason, okay? Don't. So we can go ahead and like shift and transition to this, right? So going into the mini set, we were pretty scared about these 2 big cards that got printed: the Defias Cannoneer, the 3-mana 3/3. Whenever you swing a weapon, fire 2 cannon shots, and Mr. Smite, right? And we were kind of on the fence as a group of whether we thought these cards were going to be strong, whether they belonged in Pirate Warrior, did they fit the game plan, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you guys have, I'm assuming you guys have played against a lot of Pirate Warrior. I don't know if you guys have had the experience of playing it yourselves very much, but I do want to open up the floor and just talk about these 2 new cards, right? How are you guys feeling about Defias Cannoneer and Smite?
So, I don't know. Like I've kind of it's hard to gauge. I think I've again streamed probably 4 hours a day every day since the expansion came out, and I think I've had a Smite played from hand against me 3 times. 1 time it mattered, and 2 times it was just randomly created by Sky Raider and didn't make a difference. Conversely, I've like had blowout games as a result of the Cannoneer, where they just have the first mate on 1 curve that we talked about and we're kind of scared of, or 1 or 2, whatever, depending on whether they have the coin, and just like being completely trounced and like didn't feel like I had any agency whatsoever in the game. And so that's like Cannoneer, based on my experience, feels like it was, you know, is a little bit better than expected. Smite about where I thought he would be, but then I started looking at the data, and like the drawn win rate for these cards is the inverse of what I expected. Like Smite's actually seems like a good card to draw, but like again, I haven't experienced it being a relevant card to draw against me, whereas like Device Cannoneer is landing towards the bottom for some of these lists as in terms of the drawn win rate associated with it, indicating that maybe it's a little bit slow, but like that just doesn't line up with my experience. So have I not played against enough Pirate Warriors? I don't know, because it feels like it until the Druids came, like it was legitimately half of my games the first 3 days of the expansion before the Druid bug was discovered. So like, I don't know. I'm confused in like the misalignment between my observed reality and what the data is suggesting. And you know, arguably the sample sizes aren't really large enough to like actually make a definitive opinion, and maybe that's it. But like, I don't know. This list has Mr. Smite as the highest drawn win rate card in the deck, and that just again hasn't really felt like something that's mattered to me. So I don't know. I'm curious if you guys are noticing something different.
Yeah, the any specific list that you look at HH3 play right now is going to be very sketchy, especially with Mr. Smite, because it is a one of, and so it's even worse because you are going to see it at like half the amount of games. But yeah, so my general experience with Mr. Smite and Cannoneer, pretty much where I was, like, obviously did the review, where I'm kind of like, yeah, like, they're okay. I think Mr. Smite might be... It's funny. The Defiance Cannoneer is the card that probably feels very, very strong, because you tend to more likely see it when your opponent actually has a weapon, and you don't see it as much when it's stuck in hand. But at the same time, Mr. Smite is also just stuck in hand, and you do also only tend to see it when you're dying. I don't know. They seem about where I expected, I suppose, where they seem like the fringe cards that are probably just barely playable. Like, it might be the better 3-drop option, the Cannoneer. But I don't think it's like super overpowered or anything right now. Mr. Smite, I'm not sure about. Mr. Smite probably might be just a bit of a meta call. Like, it'll just depend on either even Warlock and Reno even Warlock, because it does feel very good against like Reno even Warlock specifically. But I'm not sure if there's metas highly based around feature Druid and Pirate Warrior mirrors, then maybe less so.
Yeah, I barely see either type of even lock. So like, I don't know. I mentioned this the other day. It's just like, in fact, I was just editing a video. I was just like, why is nobody playing Evenlock? The hero power never gets its cost reduced. What is wrong with you? Play the deck. It's good. And I don't know.
Yeah. I think people are just bored. Like, just don't want to play it. Didn't get anything. I mean, it didn't stop people playing Odd Hunter, to be fair. People kept playing Odd
Pirate
Hunter.
Warrior.
I was about to say.
Oh, that got new cards.
Pirate Warrior got new cards, yeah. I will say my experience the first 2 days, I think Cannoneer is absolutely insane, right? Just
really?
We talked about the high roll potential, right? And I think if you are aggressively mulliganing for it, that high roll is going to happen way more often than it's not. And even if the Cannoneer is coming down on turn 4, it still feels really insane. Like, if that was a 4-mana 3/3 without effect, I think you might still consider playing it, just because.
Whoa.
Maybe not. No, okay, that's going a little far. No, but even when you play it on turn 4, like if you play an Anchor on turn 3 and then you play this on 4, I still think it's a pretty insane effect. Smite himself, I think you guys have kind of hit it the nail on the head. It feels really bad in the mirror to draw, but I think it is in general better than Crag, because in the mirror you're generally not going to have a lot of pirates to discount your Crag anyways, so your Crag's going to be costing 5 or 6 mana. At least that's been my experience with Crag in the mirror, because hopefully you're making a lot of trades, right? That's kind of what's generally happening. But it helps a lot against the Odd Hunters and the Even Locks, like you guys were mentioning, that I think it's worth running, just because it improves your matchups that were poor anyways by a significant margin. I was playing just normal Even Lock on day 1 of the mini set, and I got bursted down from 25 on turn 8 by Mr. Smite. Nice. And that's good. I was like, this is fine. Like, I'm good. And then I died from 25, and I was like, this is not okay. It just provides so much burst that I think it's worth running. And just in my, like, 20, 25 games of Pirate Warrior that I've played, I feel like it's been better than Crag. And, I mean, like you were saying when we did our card review last week, that Crag is still pretty good in the deck, right? And so if it's better than Crag, it's probably still worth playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't played any of the Pirate Warrior myself, so I can't really speak to this. But my feeling playing opposite the Cannoneer is that it's very good in some of the board-based matchups, which is like everything below the top three. Because you're not going to blast through a giant with a Cannoneer. You're against Evenlock. You're probably more hopeful that those shots go face if they set up a taunt or something like that. But like, I think it might further separate Pirate Warrior from like the rest of the field, because as we talked about when we were doing the meta review, Pirate Warrior feeds on everything that's not the two other good decks, and a lot of those tend to be those board-based aggro decks that are just going to get decimated by the Cannoneer. So I feel like it further bolsters those matchups, whereas Smite helps with the other two. So yeah, maybe it is worth running them both just to, you know, to balance the deck a little bit more, not from a you know, a traditional balance standpoint, but balance the deck in terms of its own matchup spread.
Yeah, more well-rounded.
There you go.
Yeah, this is definitely one though. Like I tend to always look at stats and deck and drawn win rate and things like that in general, but this is really one where I'm gonna have to wait and see, because I don't know what to think with these cards.
Yeah.
I think they're both like fine. I think they're both solid without being outstanding, but I definitely want to keep an eye out because I don't know. Like, I just don't know.
If you're listening and you're going to play Pirate Warrior, play both of these cards just so that we can get better data to make a better determination. Like you're probably going to play Pirate Warrior anyway. I know you listening. If you're going to play these cards so we can get better data at least, and record your data to HS replay.
All right, thank you, Roffle, for that public service announcement. All right, believe it or not, cards other than pirates came out this set. Okay, we also had some parrots come out with those pirates. So let's talk about some of them. I know, Roffle, you've probably been playing a lot of the macaw in Shutterwalk Shamans. I haven't been able to catch your stream the last couple of days, but I'm assuming that this is something you gravitated towards.
Not as much as I like, because I really just wanted to get a really good shutter train rolling with the macaw, and like either before or after, I just wanted multiple shutters, and people would either concede to the first shutter, they would dirty wrap my shutter and my macaw, so I get neither, or it was just this comedy of errors where I played for like 2.5 hours with the deck, and I never got both macaw and Shutterwalk Blade in a single game, so it was aggravating. I'm gonna try again and again until I get it, but like the macaw just seems independently very good. Like I had a game against this poor quest mage where I played a maybe it was Ignite Mage, maybe both, where I curved Lotheb into macaw over the course of multiple turns, and they just watched me play Hearthstone because I also was running the robes of protection, so they just legitimately couldn't do anything while I chained Lothebs. And you just run this card in Battlecry decks because like repeating your last Battlecry is good, and because you run high value Battlecries, it's got decent stat lines compared to what most Battlecries in your deck do. So yeah, just play the card. It's good. I still don't know what happens when you play it with a shutter, but it seems fun from my opponent's perspective when they did it to me.
Yeah, I think macaw in general is just like we talked about last week. It's just going to be one of those solid cards that whenever you're building a Shaman deck, you're shoving in Primal Dungeoneers, and you're probably shoving this in, and then filling out the rest of the deck, right? You're adding Ice Fishing, you're adding Flurkle Talks, you're adding these guys, and then you're figuring out the rest of your deck. I want to talk a little bit about Squawker. I don't know if you guys have played any Paladin. I did try out some Libram Paladin on day one. Believe it or not, still not very good against Odd Hunter. But the Squawker itself feels solid in that deck. The majority of the time it was like a 4-mana 5/5 draw card, which was pretty good, right? I did have a couple games where it summoned me an 8/8 late in the game, which was so nice. But just in general, it doesn't really feel like it's moving the needle for Libram Paladin, but I do think it's like a solid card in that deck. Something that I haven't really had the chance to try out yet that I wanted to. You were talking about Blessing of Authorities. I put it in kind of a Call to Arms Aggro Paladin shell with Seal of Champions and Blessing of Authorities, and then this guy. At that point, I had gotten a little bit tired of the Pirate Warriors and Odd Hunter, so I didn't really get the chance to try it out on day one, but it's something I'll go back to, and I think that it has a lot of potential in a deck like that, because in that deck you have like 3 huge buff spells that are pretty, or I guess 4 huge buff spells plus Hand of Adal that feel pretty good in that deck. I don't know if you guys have tried out any of the Paladin Parrot.
Yeah, I actually just today played some even Paladin with Blessing of Kings and Hand of Adal, and either felt like a pretty good target. It turns out a 4-mana 7/8, can do some work if you set up a taunt the turn before on like an Annoyatron. So, it's board-based aggro deck, but so it struggles a bit. But like it actually did. I put Nairbar Weblords in there and obviously Galaka Crawlers, and did reasonably well into Pirate Warrior just between those 2 cards and Annoyatron as a taunt. Like Weblord is just an underestimated tool against Pirate Warrior. I had one on turn 1 today that delayed them so much they didn't get Rakara down until like turn 9, and I just killed them. Like it was pretty silly how much it delays them, just because it completely denies their turn 2, because their turn 2 is pirates that have battle cry. So I think that's something that could come back. I could see Even Hunter coming back for a similar reason with Narrow Bars.
All right. So enough about the parrots. Let's move back into some more pirates that also got released. God, there's so many pirates. First of all, let's talk about Slinger. So this is the, I don't know the first part of the name, but it's a 1-mana 2/1 Warlock pirate that deals damage equal to the damage you've taken this turn, right? So kind of like Prize Plunder for Warlock. I know a lot of people were playing this in Dark Glare-less Dark Glare, or whatever you want to end up calling it. I will defer to Roffle here, because I know you've been playing nothing but this deck the past couple of days. What's kind of your consensus on whether this fits in whatever you want to call it, Warlock?
I think he's talking to Corb, but I played this deck.
Take it away, Ruffle.
Sorry.
Hey, I played this deck a lot too.
Oh, no.
I am well equipped to answer this question. So thank you, Get Me Out, for confusing me with my fellow co-host.
You both look so attractive that it gets. I'm trying to make it up for
what a
some compliment.
save.
I was going to say it's.
All
I take it as a compliment, so I'm fine with it. But I will continue telling you, Get Me Out, all about my Roffle's experience with this card. It's really good. The deck's really good too, and I can actually wrap my head around it because I don't have to do Dark Glare math anymore. Because like I can't count, so I only have to count to the number of crystals that are already there, and I get to watch them disappear, and they don't come back. So like I know how much mana I have available to me each turn. I can play the deck. The deck's good, and the Prize Plunderer is very good, especially when Raised Dead exists. Like, I've taken out Rokaras, I've taken out giants on the opposing side of the board with this just by taking damage, which is what the deck wants to do anyway. There are cute plays that you can do setting it up by trading it off and then Raised Dead in and getting some more value off of it. It works really well with the Broom if you do the same. Like, the card's just disgusting, the deck's disgusting. I don't know how many nerfs it's going to take, but this deck is, like, good.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit lower on it. Like, I still think it's solid. I liked it. But in the specific list that I was playing, like, I think if you are running things like Spirit Bomb, in the Slinger deck, I can see it being really, really good. But personally, I just found that for whatever reason, it already has a lot of single target removal right now, right? With like Drain Soul, the Knoll is a kind of single target removal, the Touch of Nathozim. And I don't know, the Slinger just felt a little underwhelming personally when I was playing it. And I ended up playing, I tried in Cult Neophytes instead, because the matchup that I was having the most difficulty with the nerfed Warlock was Odd Hunter. So yeah, I thought the Cult Neophytes could kind of slow it down. But yes, this deck is very, 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 very good, I think, regardless of Slinger. But I'm happy that people are playing Slinger, so again, we can get that juicy, juicy data that we were referencing earlier.
I've got no opinions on these because all I can think about is how I screwed up y'all's names, and I apologize. So, I also just haven't played very much of the Slinger, so I don't really have like a solid opinion of it. I did play some Dark Glare though for the first time since before the Demon Seed, so like it received like 2 nerfs between the last time I played it and now. turns out that it's still kind of a difficult deck to play and like just pick up and pilot if you have no idea what you're doing, because I had no idea what I was doing, and I actually asked for Twitch chat's backseating because I had no idea what I was doing. So if that tells you how desperate I was, but it does seem like it. We'll maybe talk about this a little bit later. It feels like early impressions of it might be getting propped up just to the prevalence of all the Pirate Warrior and maybe the Pirate Druids, and I wonder if it'll remain super successful if we ever go back to a meta that we were seeing where there's a lot of even locks and Reno even locks and odd hunters, and maybe we'll come back to this once we start talking about decks themselves. So just a little bit of a spoiler for you guys. A couple war cards. Just one of them's not super impressive. Let's talk about this new like 2-mana Defias Leper, the 2-mana 3/2 Shadow Priest card. If you control a shadow spell, deal 2. Again, I haven't played much Shadow Priest. I don't know if you guys have played against it. 2-mana 3/2 good. Was I wrong in being hesitant about it?
I've never had it played against me without it being active, and it seems so. Like, if that's the case, it seems pretty good, right? Like, I don't know. You were carrying maybe 4 questionable cards in Shadow Priest prior to the expansion, so I feel like this is just kind of fine in there. 2 mana's actually surprisingly hefty, but like in a metagame where like a lot of games are questline on 1, you have the opening to play a 2-mana 3/2 and shoot the opponent. So it's kind of like a 3rd and 4th copy of a tour guide that makes a better body.
I like it. I think card good. Aggressive, Mercspark, EL strong. And like Roffle says, it just always seems active. I don't know. It just always seems active. So, good card. Shadow Priest good.
Shadow Priest underrated? Shadow Priest underrated, you think?
Yeah.
All right, and the last one, saved it for last because it's the new big flashy legendary spell, right? We got Edwin, 4-mana 4/4 pirate, play cards off the top of your deck, draw a card, +2/+2. Surprisingly, he keeps his stats when you shadow step him, and apparently that is intended. It's
complicated.
It's
Roffle, you take it away.
Okay, so it's a little more complicated than that. Like Corb said, like if you play him, play a bunch of spells that you draw off of him, and then shadow step him, he resets back to a 4/4. If you play him and then immediately shadow step him, and then start playing the spells that you drew off of him, he gets actually buffed in hand. And then when you play him for 2 mana, like he has a head start on his next round of battle cries. So like that gives you the possibility to either, if you're low on mana and you want to set up like a turn 5 Edwin, you can play him on turn 4, bounce him, play some of the cards just to get them out of hand or into play. And then you can repeat that process next turn and get a head start on the Edwin to buff him up into Oblivion. It turns out that like it's a high roll deck and it's silly, but like the deck's not that bad into Pirate Warrior. Like you just kind of kill them before they kill you, and like what's a cannon gonna do against like a 32/32 Edwin? They don't run taunts, or at least they shouldn't be running taunts, and even if they do, you have some 0-mana 1/1s that can beat down their taunt minions. So like deck's really fun. It's not terribly consistent because like unless you're up against a Pirate Warrior, you're not gonna have a great time. And like the Cannoneer opener can probably still kill you before you get fully set up, but like you do have some spot removal. It's one of the most fun decks I've played this expansion, and the dev team did confirm that the buffing in hand is intended behavior for Edwin. It's not another bug. It's a little bit unintuitive, and when you have like 300 people in your Twitch chat yelling at you that he keeps his stats when you shadow step him, it's really hard to like actually understand what that means. And then people were telling me different things about what happens when I play the buffed Edwin, whether he restarts at a 4/4 or like. So I finally was just like, I'm gonna tune you out because you're not helpful, and I'm just gonna try and see what happens. And it was weird, but it was kind of powerful.
Yeah, the simple way to think about it is when you Shadow Step him, he loses the buffs, but he can keep getting buffed. That's pretty much as simple as we can make it. But yeah, it's fun. It's really, really fun. The deck is sick. The deck is super cool. Not very good. God, no, not very good.
Just queue into Pirate Warriors.
Yeah, and just high roll. Just win. No, this deck is sort of something I'm like genuinely keep an eye on, because if it was just 0 cost cards, like if there were enough 0 cost cards in the deck, in the format right now, it would probably be just broken. The problem is that you brick. Like you're only running like 16 or 18, I think, 0 cost cards with the neutrals and prep, coin, backstab. And so you do run into problems with that. But someday, dude, someday this is going to be it. This is going to be the nuts. And you will be regularly making, 34 Edwins on turn 3. I am interested in players exploring builds that weren't just like Tiny Fin, Death Gimp, like cute Rogue. I've seen some toying around with things like just Efficient Octobot and Foxy, running more of a sort of Miracle Rogue, Combo Rogue, Baitweed Rogue type shell. And so I'm interested to see if players, start playing that a bit more and see how the deck goes.
Yeah, good transition into the deck section, Corbett. Thanks. Because there is the cute Rogue, which I think, like you guys have mentioned, very high rolly, very fun to play like 30 cards in one turn. But I believe it's the same person that I queued into, Zyxia?
OT Zexia?
Yeah.
OT Zexia.
So I keyed into them, and they hit me twice on like turn 6 and kill me with the deck. But the deck revolves around obviously the Octobots and stuff, but it's like a Scabs with the Edwin and Potion of Illusions, and like you get to play 10 or 12 cards. You just like aren't running 0 cost cards. You're running actually good cards, right? You're running Foxy, Swindle, Shrouds, all that kind of stuff. And I played a little bit of the deck. I got the deck code from them, and it's really fun to play. Like I was positive into a bunch of Pirate Druids and Pirate Warriors, which is a good sign, right? Obviously, Hunter's Mark still hurts a little bit because you don't run Conceal in that Miracle style build, so they can still Hunter's Mark your Edwins, which feels a little bit bad. But I know the deck is really fun. I think, like you said, it has a lot of potential, and I think most importantly, both of these decks are really, really fun to play. We can provide codes for these down in the description, so if you guys are interested for any of these decks, we'll drop you guys codes down in the description if you guys want to play those. But I think those are kind of the two brand new decks, I would say, that so far, outside of the Pirate Druid, have kind of spawned from the mini set. I don't know if I'm wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind that I can think of.
I wouldn't even consider Pirate Druid a new deck. It's just like you put 4 cards into Aggro Druid. It's GG.
Outside of those kind of new decks, I feel like we should touch on some of the established archetypes that have seen significant pushes. I know we're early days. We're recording this, 4 days after the mini set has released, so it's not like we have a huge sample size between the three of us. But I mean, let's just talk about Pirate Warrior. This is the big bad, right? We were scared of this coming in. I was really scared of this on day one, right? Talk about day one overreactions. I have since come to the conclusion that it is not so much more far and away busted than what it used to be compared to everything else. Like, it got better, which is scary because it was according to the VS stats, was the best deck in the format, right? And it does feel like it has gotten better, but it doesn't feel like it's gotten 10 percentage points better, right?
So yes, I will say that the community definitely overreacted to the new cards, but I think they were underreacting to how good Pirate Warrior was before the new cards even came out to a certain extent.
Yeah,
I had somebody in my Twitch chat tell me the week of the VS report, prior to it coming out, the Pirate Warrior wasn't even a tier 1 deck in the format, and like that was clearly just very, very wrong. Like it's the best deck in the format. Odd Hunter isn't close. Even Warlock is maybe only close, or even Reno is maybe only close because it beats up on Pirate Warrior so well. So like it's I don't think that people realized, first of all, how strong the deck already was, and second of all, how little 3 cards, which are, again, arguably lateral changes for the deck and like side grades rather than strict upgrades, is going to how small of an impact that's going to make on a deck that is so far and above everything else in the format. Like, these would have to be the most bonkers cards that we've ever seen to move that needle enough to where we would actually notice. Like, it's still just the same 27 cards plus 3. Like I don't, that was the part where, like, it blows my mind that people, like, are reacting as strongly as they were, when it's like, that's at best 1/10 of the deck. You still have to draw those cards, and you really don't want to draw all 3 of them in the same game. Like, so it's like I think people were overreacting to the impact that these cards were had, and, like I said, underreacting to how good the deck already just was.
Yeah, that's really funny to me. I totally agree with everything you said. That Pirate Warrior already was this deck, but sometimes it just takes like an event. It takes something to sort of energize the player base to actually like push towards playing something a lot more. And you know, people were very hyped about the Pirates, right? Like the Pirate Warrior started out of the gates at like 30% play rate, and that completely declined entirely by the time Druid caught on. Now Druid is like 40% of the meta, and Pirate Warrior is more down to its like 15%. But yeah, like Mr. Smite and Defias, like they have very little to do with anything about Pirate Warrior being good. Sometimes, you know, the biggest thing that people complain about is whatever is the most popular, and people will see that Pirate Warrior is more popular because it got new stuff and people are trying it more. And so I think that's the biggest reason why complaints immediately kicked off, because they were seeing it more often. But it already was. Nothing has really changed with Pirate Warrior, right? It's probably exactly where it was before the mini set.
Yeah. Okay, I will say, I don't think that the complaints are completely unwarranted, because Pirate Warrior is a pretty insane, absolutely powerful deck. But it's weird that people weren't complaining about it before the mini set, and now they are. That being said, taking a little bit of a step back, I know, sorry, I take a little bit of a step back though. Do you think that Pirate Warrior with these new cards is going to maybe take a step away from these two decks, or do you think it's too early to tell, or do you think that it's still right now in contention with Odd Hunter and Even Lock?
I think that, like, we can kind of base that based on what we saw immediately after the expansion released and before Druid became a thing, that, like, there was a pretty clear distinction between those 3 classes, even on HS Replay, that, like, very closely resembled what we saw in the VS report, you know, prior to the expansion coming out. And, like, even within that, Warrior was, you know, a noticeable step above those 2, which is, again, like, pretty much what it was in the VS report. Like, even Reno Warlock is getting carried by its matchup against Pirate Warrior, so those 2 are going to always kind of, like, walk in step with one another. And I think that, you know, Hunter is a bit behind that, but, like, Hunter also beats Pirate Warrior, so it's maybe going to, you know, increase as the popularity of Pirate Warrior increases. And then, you know, if that's the case, we get a further divide between the 3 best decks and everything else in the format right now. So I don't know. I would wait and see how things start settling once Druid is fixed, but I wouldn't change it to or I wouldn't expect it to change much from what we saw prior to the expansion, other than maybe you know, Pirate Warrior getting a step or 2 or a half step or so ahead of where it was in terms of the prior to the set. Like, again, I think unless those cards are outrageously broken, you know, 3 cards getting introduced to a deck isn't going to make a you know, huge difference in the deck's win rate.
Yeah, I'm not sure Pirate Warrior has really created any further gap. I think it's about where it is. It's just more popular, and yeah, it's about like, in terms of actual like win rate, I doubt it's really that different than something like Even Warlock. I don't think there's really going to be much of a difference, like Reno Even. The real question that Meowth is, like, we talk about these 3 decks and whether Pirate Warrior is above these 2, but is there a deck that's actually better than all of these 3?
I know where you're going with this, and I don't agree with you, but I will let you use that as your transition.
That's what I'm doing. We can, yeah.
I'll let you use that as your transition. You can go. You want to talk about what you think
Absolutely.
is maybe better than all of these?
I will. One of the only times I feel we may have ever had this tier 1 hidden archetype that no one knew about, that no one was playing, Darkler. I think Darkler is the best deck in the format right now. That would be my pick if I had to. It's still early days, and it is mostly circulating among highly engaged players, and there will be a bit of a bias there. But I think the Darkler Warlock might currently be the best deck in Wild.
After my experience, like, I don't know that that's true, but I will say I played 20 games with it. I lost 6. 5 of them were auto concedes against Druid. So I lost 1 legitimate game with the deck against an Odd Hunter, and I believe had a overall positive win rate against Odd Hunter just by making them dead. Like, that's what the deck does. It's handlock. You just make giants, make opponent dead. It's like, what I like about this version is it plays very similar to Even Warlock, which is a deck that, like, I feel like I have a good grasp of. So, like, it just feels like Even Warlock that gets online faster and has more and better reactive tools for the board state, so it does better into a Pirate Warrior. It has better reactive tools without spending mana, which is ludicrous. Like, it's like you the amount of times that you just build a board and then swing the board with things like Broom is outrageous to me. So yeah, this deck is very good, and like I said, I don't know how many nerfs it's going to take this down a peg. I'm not ready to call it the best deck yet, just on my limited experience, but like, I think we maybe have a 4th consideration at the very least. I think that, like, having played this deck myself and having been somebody that was very, very, very high on just like the straight even lock with no Reno, seems weird to play that deck when you have this as an option that just does those very similar things but better.
Yeah, I know what I said is sort of an insane take, or it might come across that way, because we have been talking for over a month about how these 3 tier 1 decks are so much better than everything. And it's the most warped meta of all time, and in Wild. And, I'm not asking you to come join me on Darkler Island, but right now I have got real estate. I'm setting up the whole place. I've got a nice beach property. I'm just hanging out on Darkler Warlock Island, and you guys can come visit if you want.
This sounds like the start of your Darkler cult. You have the DMH cult. This sounds exactly like your Darkler cult. And
no, you know what, Corb? I will take a pamphlet. I'm going to think it over, have a talk with my family, and see if it's in the cards for us. But, like, I'm intrigued. I'm listening.
All right. 2 things. We got to figure out a name that's not Darkler, right? Because there is no more Darkler in the deck.
I just love calling it Darkler.
I know.
I love it. Just because everybody asks, where's the Darkler? And I just love it. Like, just call it Darkler Warlock. The same reason, like, same thing happened when we, like, Reno rotated out of Standard. We don't need to call Reno decks Highlander just because there's no Reno. There's still Reno decks. It's just it's a name. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to refer to a card that exists in the deck. It's Darkler Warlock.
Oh god. I want to just throw out the name Broomstick Warlock because we name decks after the most important card, right? Or the most iconic card. And to me, the most iconic card in that deck is Animated Broomstick, because that deck would be nothing if it weren't for that silly, stupid little 1/1. So, that being said, I do want to argue a little bit back against this. I know you mentioned that this was because it was early days, right? I have been watching a lot of your stream. I've been lurking in Otter's stream. God, I feel like so much of it is farming. I believe it was your day 2 stream where you were playing Darkler Warlock. And so many of your wins were because Pirate Warriors didn't know how to play around Defile and didn't know how to play around Molten Giants. Or Evenlocks didn't know how to play around Molten Giants. And I feel like once people start playing stuff like Reno Evenlock, or they start playing Odd Hunter again, and they stop playing these board-based decks that Darkler is really, really good into, I think you're going to kind of see a falling back to earth of Darkler. And I do want to argue that I think Darkler is good. I don't think it's in the realm of the 3 best decks in the format. I think it's more in the realm of that Shadow Priest, right? That Fabled tier 2 that we had, right? That second tier of decks, alongside maybe like, I guess it's just Shadow Priest,
Ignite Mage?
Ignite Mage. I wanted to say Ignite Mage and Combo Druid, but I felt like they were worse than that. But regardless, I think once you see the meta settle a little bit, I think you will see Darkly Warlock fall off in success rate. And I know you did put that disclaimer out there that it is early days, but I want to just let people know why I disagree with that statement. So I do think the deck is good. I've been playing it myself and I've been having success with it, but I feel like once people learn how to play against Darkly Warlock again, or like start playing decks that are bad matchups for the Darkly Warlock, I think you're going to see a lot more normalization of that win rate.
Yeah, I think right now, like, it is crushing into Pirate Warrior right now. It feels like I think even regardless of the smack face play into Molten Giant, don't even think about it. Like, I think even that aside, it does feel like a very favorable matchup, and that definitely helps. But I think its matchup spread is just really well balanced. Like, I think it handles board-based aggro really well. I think it still has those Battleground Loathab Giant threat and lethal against slower decks. There's enough disruption. I'm playing Cult Neophytes as well, personally, to sort of help the Odd Hunter matchup, which does feel like an unfavorable, but not a crushing unfavorable. Sometimes you do get to punch them in the head, and that's awesome. But yeah, this is my pick. This might be the hottest take I think that I've had in a long time. Like, this is amazing. Like, I don't know how much people are really on board or ready for this, because I tweeted it out. This would be so funny. It would be so funny if Darkglare Warlock was still the best thing. And I'm rooting for the Darkglare Warlock so much.
I mean, when you compare it to the other decks in the format, I'm kind of rooting for it too. Like, just to, like, I know it's not really variety, and maybe it's just the nostalgia I had for the Barrens or the Wailing Caverns metagame, but like, yeah, I'm rooting for Darkglare too, as opposed to these other three decks. Like, let's have some variety. We haven't had that in a few months.
Oh, even if it is another pamphlet,
even if the variety is the same thing that we were dealing with, months ago. That was months ago. Now it's new again.
Yeah,
and now I can play it is the important part.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, but if it goes back to being the best deck, you can't play it because then people are going to yell at you. God, all you do is play the best deck in the format. Can you play anything else, Roffle, please?
I feel like I should at least set the table a little bit, because people might not have an idea of what's going on, because this isn't a deck that's popular.
People are going to take this out of context for sure too, I feel like.
Well, even if they are, I think people here's the thing. Glare Warlock right now is mostly circulating at High Legend, for the most part, right? It's only really recently popped up. It got a little bit of hype probably the week prior to the Miniset launch. With Otters having a really good finish with it last season. He had like a rank 6 finish, and he hit rank 1 with it early on. And then myself and a lot of other people have started net decking it, whether it's Memnarch and a whole bunch of like high people who are typically High Legend. So it does still seem bizarre, because if you're not within that sort of range, you probably are not playing against it. Like, I doubt you're seeing it. And maybe you never will, because Darkglare Warlock's deck is a deck that never really trickled down. But this is a bit of a different version. This is a sort of hand Warlock thing that looks a lot similar to what players might have seen in Standard with the Quest, where it's running a Null, a Netheron, Backfire, that kind of package. It's sort of just the wild version of that, and is sort of akin to halfway between that and then some of what we saw with the Demon Seed, where it's like Battlemaster, Loathab, play some fatties, and kill people. It's a very good deck, and is a little bit different than what we previously saw with the old versions of Darkglare Warlock.
Yeah. Okay. Now that we've said all of that, right? We're gonna put the code down in the comments. You guys got to go play this in NetSec so we can actually see some. We were talking about the stats in Pirate Warrior and stuff like that. I got to get some more stats on different matchups for this deck and see. See if the deck actually is the best deck in the format. Do we come back to this in a couple weeks and call out?
You're not getting property. No. Yeah, that ship has sailed me out. You can't come join the island.
No, it's okay. You just got to rename the Discord to, like, there's the DMH Cult Discord. We got to rename your Discord to the Darkglare Cult Discord, and we'll be good to go. It's okay. I will watch your island sink and get hit by tsunami and waves and. What are the big waves that crash into things?
Nerfs, Meowth. They're called nerfs. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. God, my English is so bad. Anyways, let's talk about one last deck here on the episode, as we're running a little bit low on time. And so, based upon Macaw, the Shaman 3/3, there's been a little bit of a resurgence of just kind of Shutterwalk Shamans kind of in general. So whether this is non-Reno versions, Reno versions, Infinite Shutterwalks, or Barista Lotha Blockout Shutterwalks, or Galakron there's been kind of a resurgence of these Shaman decks kind of popping up. And so I just want to kind of open the floor. I don't know if you guys have had a lot of success or seen a lot of people having success. I know there was somebody at Rank 2 Legend just before we recorded this that was playing Reno Shaman and was having a little bit of success farming Corbett. So,
how dare you?
Hey man, I just speak the facts. But yeah, I mean, what are you guys feeling about Reno Shaman and Shutterwalk Shaman, and is the Macaw kind of the boost that this deck might have needed?
I mean, it sounds like Corb has more experience in this than I do.
Yeah, I'm actually not really a believer. As much as I'm apparently getting farmed, Meowth. I'm not.
Hey
really
man, you went like 1
in
and 3. Okay, that is getting farmed for you. Come on.
True. But yeah, I'm still not really a believer in the Macaw Shutterwalk Shaman. I think the Macaw is a cool addition, especially in the Reno version. But yeah, whether we're talking about Galakron Shaman or whatever, I don't really believe in this type of archetype to be quite strong. I think it's going to be about where it was previously, which is tier 4. But yeah, cool card. So I hope people have fun playing it. And maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, my intuition is that it's also probably too slow, but like that was from my own miserable experience trying to make it ever do a thing. So like I don't, if it is like, it's undoubtedly a good card, but like I talked about with Pirate Warrior, like this isn't the card that's going to spring something up. We saw like the card it's not Primal Dungeoneer, right? Like it's good, but I don't think it's on that caliber of quality that will like actually see a noticeable rise for the deck. But it's definitely, just another solid card in the deck. It's just the deck is kind of slow into the metagame right now, that like if you're playing this to get to Shutter, that it's not going to cut it. And I'd be curious to see how it plays in like a Galakron deck, although even that was kind of falling out of favor just as a result of Odd Hunter and decks like that don't care about you having a board or just remove your board. So something that, like if there is a future where Shutterwalk Shaman can re-find its footing, I think it's a card that will be in there for kind of like Dungeoneer for the rest of Shutterwalk history.
All right, I want to close up this little section on Reno Shaman or Shutterwalk Shaman. We want one last question for you guys, one hypothetical. So this one was inspired by Martian. Again, shoutouts to Martian Boo on Twitter and Twitch. He was playing a little bit with Cookie, the Shaman Murloc, that has lifesteal and then Death Rattle lifesteal weapon. And the idea was kind of brought up, and I'm kind of buying into it a little bit without actually having ever played with the deck. But do we ever go the White Delight route of Reno Shaman, where we run like 28 singleton cards, and then we run 2 copies of Ice Fishing, and then you run 4 Murlocs in your deck, where you run Flurgle Tox, you run Mutanus, which is like the 3 that people normally run, and then you run Cookie as this like anti-aggro card. That's just solid. How are you guys feeling about this idea? And maybe we even don't touch this in the Reno shell. What if we just run like this package of 2 Ice Fishing, 4 Murlocs in kind of a Galakron Shaman shell?
I actually had somebody running it against me in the Reno Shaman deck with actually Finley Grizzled Wizard as a 5th Murloc. So they're a boatload of Murlocs. It's tough to gauge because like when it happened to me, they played 1 and had all 5 Murlocs. So it felt really bad to play against, and that's part of the reason why I never got to play my Shutterwalk and Macaw in the same game, because they kept Mutanusing me. So like, my experience is a little bit clouded. Flurgle Toxfin is so good, and there's so many times where like turn 5 you need to play Ice Fishing into Flurgle Tox, and it wins you the game. So like, I'm skeptical of that, but I don't know. I don't know if Cookie is the card that makes that worth running, even
Okay.
though he does seem like a pretty solid card.
Even without Cookie, hypothetically, what if you use Finley as that 4th Murloc? Just like using Ice Fishing instead of just like a tutor combo piece as a value draw engine where you draw your good cards.
The problem I see with that is that each and every one of those Murlocs that you're supposedly drawing, you're drawing at a time you want to do a very specific thing. And by separating them, you're making it less likely you get to do that specific thing when you get to your Murloc. So, I don't know. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I was almost like I could certainly understand the previous meta where even in the Reno deck you would still play the Mutanus. Like I kind of got it because the math wasn't that bad that you didn't randomly pick up a Murloc before like turn 5, and so it didn't affect the Toxid Flogel combo that much. That's it. I always preferred not playing the 3rd Murloc, but in this case I definitely don't want to play double Ice Fishing. In like a Reno deck. Looking beyond that, looking at something like Galakron, by the time you get to like 4 or 5 Murlocs, at that point the combo just becomes so inconsistent, it feels like. So I'd probably not go down that path. Yeah, I don't think the cookie crumbles like that.
Damn, you had to do it like that. All right, I see. I mean, just something to keep in. I think I'm gonna try it out, and then when it goes poorly, I'm not going to admit it, and we're just going to pretend like it never happened, okay? But if it goes well, then I'll come back next week and talk about how Martian had this brilliant idea, and we executed, and we got this beautiful deck. That's saving the wild meta. Anyways, this is a sign that we need to close the episode. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of first reactions, first week, whatever we want to call this. First impressions of the new Hearthstone Deadmines wild meta. Even though there is the Druid bug running around, that is part of the meta that we have experienced this week, and I hope you guys have been able to enjoy it, even with all of that happening. And Roffle Corbett, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and I enjoyed having you guys on as usual. Let the people know where they can find you guys streaming and all your other content about the new mini set.
You can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Roffle, and Twitter and Instagram at RoffleHS.
And you can always find me playing Tier 0 Dark Lair Warlock at Corbettgames and Corbettgames on Twitter and TikTok. Come watch some TikTok, guys, if you have TikTok. It's great.
Yeah, just go drop that follow on Corbett's Twitch, and you'll receive a free pamphlet in the mail about all that information for Dark Lair Island. You can find me at Get Me Out on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of good stuff. And just a reminder that you guys can find the podcast over on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of good stuff. So wherever you guys want to watch on the go, that's where you guys can find us. Appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Hope you guys are enjoying the mini set, and we will see you guys again next week. Later.